Button. All right, team, welcome, welcome. Can everyone see my screen okay?
I can.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Looks
All right,
good.
gang. Well, then we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to flip this into slideshow mode, and I want to welcome you all to our 2026 election cycle convention leader training. I think I know everyone on the call, but my name is Jessie Cower, and I am the chair of the 2026 Credentials Committee and also the vice chair of Libertarian Party of Texas. And we are very pleased to be bringing you this training to give you all the tools and knowledge and resources that you're going to need to facilitate successful conventions this cycle. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Agenda, just high level, kind of do some welcome and introductions. I'm going to spend some time talking about the overall timeline, spend a good amount of time making sure that you are familiar with the convention notices that are required, both in your county and also online, and the deadlines thereof. And then we'll go into each of the precinct or the convention type, so precinct, county, and district. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the resources like our LP Texas 2026 convention website that's available to you. So joining me on the call today is Bo Zimmerman, who is also on the credentials committee. Those who weren't able to join us today, but you would have seen him on the Thursday session, Scott Peterson, Mike Dooling, Jocelyn Pankey, and Lisa Schlinkert. You can reach any of us at the credentials at lptexas.org web email address. That is a group distribution. So if you send an email to credentials at lptexas.org, that gets to all of us on the credentials committee, and one of us will be able to respond to you quickly to give you an answer to your question. There is no such thing as a silly question. Even if you are a seasoned county executive who has done this a time or two, or especially if you're a brand new county chair or county executive committee member, want to encourage you to not be shy and to please take advantage of that email address for any questions that you have. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. And Bo, will you help me during this? I'm going to go ahead and admit Bob, but just keep an eye on folks that are in the waiting room and admit them as you see them.
I don't have access to that.
Oh, okay. I'll keep an eye on it then. Okay. All right, gang. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit of an overview. So I think you guys are familiar with the fact that our conventions are broken down kind of in geographic parts, right? We'll have our precinct conventions, then our county conventions, our district conventions, state convention, national conventions. So we will be talking about where you can find an election timeline that'll take you all the way up through that national convention in 2026, which is going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan this year. But even before that, we'll have our state convention that is in April in Abilene, Texas. So very excited about that state convention coming up. But what we're going to be focusing on today is really the conventions that are happening before state. So we're going to kind of focus on the sub-state level conventions in this training today. So precinct, county, and district. We'll be talking about who is eligible to participate in these conventions, all of the required forms that are required for each convention type, where to find them, when they're due, and then really just making sure that everybody has a general kind of level of confidence and comfort in how to lead a delegation in your various conventions. If you notice that I am looking to the side over here, it's because the presentation that I'm sharing is over here, and then I can see you on my screen over here. So I apologize if you're seeing my profile for part of it. I have old eyes, and so I put things on the big screen if you don't mind. Last note I'll just kind of say here is just kind of our general disclaimer that, we obviously make extensive efforts in the Credentials Committee. We have scoured the Texas Election Code, LP Texas bylaws, and policy manual to make sure that all of the information that we're providing to you is in compliance with all of that. But This is not legal advice. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email us, but also please feel free to go and look things up in the Texas Election Code in our LP Texas governance documents yourself if you feel like there is a lack of clarity on anything we're doing here. Moving along. I am going to pause periodically throughout this training. But I do encourage you that if you do have a question to use the chat feature. So Bo can see the chat and can respond to questions in the chat in real time. But I will be pausing kind of as I get to the end of each section to make sure that we're allowing time for questions. But for right now, what I really want to make sure that you guys are familiar with is the key dates. So by now, all of your delegates should have already registered to vote if they hadn't been registered already to be eligible for the precinct convention. Typically say allow 30 days to have your voter registration be processed. With our precinct conventions being on Tuesday, March 10th, we were encouraging everyone to be registered by, February 8th, which is a Sunday. So we kind of said, hey, really treat that as the Friday before because county offices aren't open on weekends. So everyone in your county should be registered to vote at this time. If you have folks that aren't registered to vote, please encourage them to do that as soon as possible. And maybe they can get that processed and get that effective date a little bit more quickly. But at this point, you guys should have been telling your folks to register to vote if they hadn't already. And then the first time big deadline that's going to be coming up is at the end of this month. Again, that's according to the Texas Election Code. The deadline is technically Saturday, the 28th. Again, county offices aren't open, but that deadline should be treated as Friday, February 27th, as the deadline to submit your precinct convention notices. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But again, pro tip for those who haven't done this before, whenever you go to the county to post your precinct convention notices, go ahead and knock out two birds with one stone and do your county convention notices at the same time. Save yourself a trip. Just go ahead and get both of those posted at once. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So again, primary election is here in red. We need to be telling our delegates now, do not vote in that primary. As I think most on the call are aware, if you vote in a Republican or Democrat primary, you are ineligible to participate in LP Texas conventions. And that's not our rule, that is Texas Election Code. You cannot participate in a primary and then also participate in the conventions of a convention party. So please send an email, put it on your socials, and do whatever you've got to do to make sure that your potential delegates in your county know that they cannot vote in that primary and then be eligible to be a delegate in our conventions. Precinct conventions, Tuesday, March 10th. That's not a negotiable. That is the date as prescribed in the Texas Election Code. That Saturday, March 14th, will be county conventions. And then the following Saturday, March 21st, will be the district conventions where applicable. And then I've got some other deadlines in here as far as whenever the records need to be submitted after each of those conventions. But as we talk about each of these convention types, I'll make sure that I hit those in a lot of detail. I won't drain this slide. But again, state convention will be the weekend of April 10th through 12th. And again, that is in Abilene, Texas. All right. So first big thing we talked about, convention notices. So convention notices, we highly encourage everyone to post those at your on the county commissioners board per the Texas Election Code, and then also post those notices on the LP Texas events page. Even if your county has its own website, and I know that not all counties do, right? If your county does have a website, you absolutely have to post your precinct and convention notices there, the date, time, location. we'll talk about kind of some specifics around those times in a little bit. But you absolutely need to post it on your county website if you have one. And then we highly encourage everyone to do that on the lptexas.org events page as well, so that people can easily find those. I'm going to just leave the presentation for just a moment, guys. And if you will just confirm that you are still able to see my screen as I move over into a different web browser. We all good?
I can
I
see
see it.
Perfect. All right. So I'm on lptexas.org. So I wanted to kind of show you what I meant about the LP Texas events page. So from the lptexas.org page, you have your banner up here at the top. You go to more and then events. And this is where you go to post your precinct and county conventions notices. I'll just kind of show you an example. So you can see that some counties are already got a head start on this. We've got Dallas, Burnet, Lamar. I'm Montgomery County, so I'm going to use my county as the example. So this is the notice that I've put out on the lptexas.org events page for my precinct conventions. So I've got the date, I've got the location. I can click on this. And I've got all of the details here. All Montgomery County precinct conventions will take place here. Encourage people to bring their voter registration card. We'll talk more about that, but that's a good thing to include in your notice. I also kind of give that disclaimer that, you know, if you voted in the primary, can't vote here, can't participate here. And then I also include, I like to do Facebook events for my county socials. And so I included a link here. Also, if you're going to be at a venue where you have to take some twists and turns to get to the right place, provide a little bit of direction there just so people know where to go. So for example, I say, hey, you know, when you enter the facility, community center's on your left. Take a ride at that hall, first door right there. So give them the breadcrumbs, if you will, to make it easy for them to find you, or maybe even have someone, maybe another member of your county executive committee who's responsible at kind of, you know, standing at the front. And if somebody's looking around and looking lost, being like, hey, are you here for the, you know, the LP Bear precinct convention or county convention? Follow me, and be able to guide them in. But if you can provide that in your notice, that's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and go back real quick because I want to show you what that form looks like. Pretty intuitive, guys, not much to it. But whenever you submit your notice, now that you've seen an example, what you would do is whenever you click more in events, there is a link here. This word form is a link, and that is where you will submit your notices. So event name, and I would say, you know, your county dash precinct conventions, or your county dash county convention. There's not a, you know, prescribed way to do it, but I always encourage for any event that you put on the LP Texas page to lead with your county. That way that's front and center. The venue name, the address, all that good stuff. Contact email and contact phone. You do have the ability to specify whether you want that to be public in your notices. And here's where you can put the social media link, and then a little bit more of the meat and potatoes as far as, you know, hey, you know, whenever you come in, take a left, and then it's the first door on the left on the hallway or something like that. You can put those details here, as well as the encouragement to bring their voter registration card, right? So this is where you submit this. Our LP Texas IT staff monitors these forms, and that usually, you know, it should be posted within a few days of you submitting it. I know that the team does try to stay on top of it, and they at least check it once or twice a week. So it's not going to populate immediately. So if you don't see it populate immediately, that's because there is action that the IT team needs to take. Give it a day or two. And then if you don't see anything, you can on Discord reach out to the Ask Staff channel, and we can make sure that the IT folks get a gentle nudge to go out there and check for that and get that posted for you. All right. I do want to spend a little bit of time kind of just telling you where you can find the notices that need to be posted. And I want to show you an example of what a completed notice looks like. So I'm just going to go back here, lptexas.org. If you click on this banner right here, main banner, this is going to link you to the state convention website. And you can go there directly by going to 2026.lptexas.org. That's 2026.lptexas.org. That is the convention website. And you can find all of the things. If you go to Contact FAQ, there is the election cycle page. And this is where it lists all of your deadlines as far as your precinct notices, your county notices, the dates of the conventions themselves, when the paperwork for each of those conventions is due. You can find all of that on this elections timeline. But also, if you go to documents, you'll find a link for convention forms and training info. Training info is going to lead you right to this deck that I'm presenting to you today. You'll be able to find this presentation and be able to refer back to it. But if you go to convention forms, that's where you're going to find your convention notices. So if you click here, that's going to open up a folder that has all of our convention paperwork. Ignore all this over here. I probably have more access in our document repository than you do being an officer. But this is what you really need to focus on over here. So we have the precinct conventions forms. And this is just an example of a blank form that you would need to fill out. You'll see that we did provide an example for you to reference. Oops. So this is an example, like if you have it in your precincts and, if you have certain precincts in one location, you can specify that. Or if you have all your precincts happening in one location, which I think is most common, that you would be able to do that here. But this is just kind of an example of something that you can fill out. I will actually show you just so I can kind of talk about something that I encourage in terms of kind of having proof that you submitted those notices. I'm going to show you, so again, I'm Montgomery County. So I'm going to show you the example of the convention notices that I posted back in 2024, last time we did this. So for example, this is the 2024 Montgomery County Precinct Convention Notice. And my county actually gives a certificate of posting. Not all counties do that. Every county is going to operate a little bit differently. So if they give you a certificate of posting, great, absolutely send that in by the deadline to records@lptexas.org. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But if they don't give you a certificate of posting or anything like that, you see this right here where they stamped it. And you can see like, all right, we received it on this date at this time and everything. Even if they handwrite it, team, if they don't have a stamp, whatever it takes so that you have something to show that you posted this and it was received by someone at your county on this date and be able to prove that you fulfilled the Texas Election Code requirement to post your notices by the deadline prescribed in the Texas Election Code. So for example, Montgomery County, we have all of our precinct conventions in one place, right? We all get together and we may have one precinct at one end of the table, another precinct at the other end of the table, another precinct in the middle of the table. We all get together and do all of our precinct conventions all together is the way that we prefer to do it. And I think that's probably most common among our counties. And so what we said was all precincts. We didn't list all of our voting precincts. We just said all precincts are meeting at this place at this time. and then make sure that that is signed. Page 1 of 2 of multiple. And then as far as the Spanish, do your best. I use Google Translate. It may not be perfect, but I made the attempt. And then you can get that posted as well. So again, a stamp, a signature with a date, something that you can get them to make a copy. They take one, they post it, they make a copy and give it to you so that you have an example of it. I know some county chairs actually print out and fill out 2 copies to make sure that that they have one that gets posted and the one that they can take back and scan and email to records@lptexas.org. I'm not going to be overly prescriptive on that, just so long as you have one that you are able to send into records. So again, what we want to do is make sure that we have that notice that is received and posted by the county at the county commissioner's board. Usually that's like a county clerk that you go to do that. And I will say, team, that you know how we only do this every couple of years, and we will forget things over the course of the years, and that's why you guys who have done this keep coming back to this training, right? So you can have a refresher. I'll say that our county offices, they're not dealing with third parties very often, and I only mention that so that I can encourage you to allow time for this county convention posting. You are going to get to your county office and they may say, oh, well, we don't do that here. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Can you go please ask someone? I know that last time in 2024, I went up to the 6th floor of the office and they sent me down to the 2nd floor so it's like, it may be a different person. The office may be on a different floor than it was whenever you did this 2 years ago. Allow time and allow some grace, because this is not something that they do very often like us. They only do it every 2 years. And so you may just have to kind of be, gently forceful to say, yes, you do, here's the Texas election code. I'm required to post this notice. Like, can you please, find someone who can help? Allow time. Like, you may not want to try to just do this on your lunch hour, right? Allow a little bit of time and expect that it's going to be maybe a little bit of a hassle. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. But again, notices for precinct conventions need to be done by, remember, we're treating that deadline as Friday, the 27th. David Constant went on that last Friday before in 2024. And who would have thunk it? It was Texas Independence Day. And the county's elections or county clerk offices were closed. That should not be the case this year. We did check on that, David. Texas Independence Day is not going to be interfering with our deadlines this time, but always, double check, make sure that, the hours and days of operation for your county offices to make sure that whenever you show up, that you are indeed able to be serviced for this.
Yep, that's typical. I'm always last minute. Sorry.
Oh, no. I only mentioned that not because it was the last day, but because like who would have thought about, Texas Independence Day and that being an impact on our ability to post our notices. All right. So to recap and kind of put a bow on convention notices, precinct notices are due by Friday, the 27th, or at least, posted at the county. You can wait till Saturday if you really want to send them into lptexas.org, but they need to be sent to records@lptexas.org with that stamp or some kind of signature, time and date showing that you did it. If you have a county website, it needs to be on your county website, and you need to post them on lptexas.org on that events page that I showed you. All right. And again, highly encourage you to knock out your convention, your county convention notices at the same time as you do the precinct convention notices to save you a step. Your county may, this is one other thing. Oh, Bob, I think you just said what I was about to say. Some counties do charge. So I think Montgomery County charged me like $6 for the posting or something like that. So be prepared for that. Your county may require some nominal fee to do this posting for you, or to, you know, maybe to make the copies and give you the certificate of posting or something like that. So don't be surprised if that happens. It shouldn't break your wallet, but there may be a nominal fee that, of course, you can pay through your county bank account if you have one, or get reimbursed from your county bank account if you have one. Any questions on convention notices before I move into talking about precinct conventions? All right, I'm going to jump right in. All right, so again, precinct conventions, and I say conventions because that is plural. It is not just a precinct convention. All voting precincts in your county are having a convention, or at least, you know, for which you have people show up at the same day as prescribed by the Texas Election Code, which again is March 10th. Timing. We do have specification in our LP Texas bylaws around when precinct conventions can happen. And the reason why is because these are on Tuesdays. It's always on a Tuesday. And we want to make sure that we allow people to have enough time to get from their work to the precinct conventions and be able to participate as delegates of that precinct convention. So our Texas bylaws state that if it's held on a Monday through a Friday, and again, it always will be because Texas Election Code says it's a Tuesday, it may convene prior to 7 p.m. in a county with a population of over 500,000, and it cannot convene earlier than 6 p.m. in a county with a population at or fewer than 500,000. So bottom line on top there, team, 6 p.m. on, depending on how the population of your county, 6 p.m. is the very earliest that you will be able to have your precinct conventions on March 10th. We did run into a couple of years ago, one of the reasons that we have this bylaw is there was someone who tried to do their precinct conventions at like 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and people were like, brother, I got to work. You can't do that. So that's the why behind it, right? Is for anything that's required on a weeknight to make sure that we are not interfering with the workday. So I usually do mine. I just schedule them from 7 to 9. And it usually doesn't even take that long for my county. But we just kind of have it as a 7 p.m. start time. And I think that's a good round number, and allow people to get from work to wherever that convention's site is going to be. And again, the locations must be published no less than 10 days before the precinct convention. So again, we're treating that deadline as Friday, the 27th, even though 10 business days or 10 days before it is technically a Saturday. And then I want to really emphasize the point that whenever we say precinct conventions, team, we're not talking about like your county commissioner precinct, or a judicial precinct, or a constable precinct. We're literally talking about voting precincts, the voting precincts that show up on your voter registration card. So this is really important. I've seen precinct notices get sent into LP Texas, where under the precincts it says 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, those are your county commissioner precincts. That's not right. So keep it simple. If you're meeting all of your precincts in one place on your notices, just put all precincts, and that'll make it easy. But again, just making sure that everyone understands that whenever we say precinct, we are talking about voting precinct. On the precinct, so there's going to be paperwork that needs to be completed on separate forms. So I'm going to show you what those forms look like again here in just a second. Even if only one person is in the precinct, they have to fill out their own precinct convention paperwork. And after the precinct convention, you have 3 days as prescribed by the Texas Election Code, to send those records into records at lptexas.org. So that deadline, first deadline after precinct convention to get your precinct convention's paperwork in, is going to be March 13th, 3 days after the precinct conventions. I'm going to just pause there for a second, and I'm going to jump back over to, remember, we talked about, we have this documents page on the convention website where you go to convention forms, which links us to all of the convention forms, which I'm going to hop back to right now. And again, guys, you won't have to dig like I'm digging, but the convention forms. So you'll notice the convention forms, we do our best to say right here at front, like what convention this is a specific to. So you'll notice for precinct conventions, you've got precinct 3, 4, and 5. Forms 3, 4, and 5 are the ones that are applicable to precinct conventions, the paperwork that you submit after that. So you'll have a convention minutes, you'll have a roster and oath of affiliation. I'm going to talk about the oath of affiliation first and the roster. So again, team, this needs to be done for each precinct, each voting precinct. So for example, in Montgomery County, my husband and I are in precinct 35. Our county treasurer is in precinct 80. So me and my husband will, fill out whoever is the convention chair for precinct 35, voting precinct 35, will make sure that this is filled out by everyone. And we have full name here, and we're talking government names, the name that appears on the voter registration card, date of birth, voter ID. This is why it's very important to have the voter registration card with them, but you can always look them up on your county elections website if they, for some reason, forgot their voter registration card. And then I want to talk about the share info box here on the roster. The share info box is basically the way that the credentials committee knows that this person is okay with us providing their contact information to candidates. Every time we're going into state convention, we have statewide candidates, and whether it's for public office or party office, somebody, who's maybe running for vice chair of LP Texas next term, for example, may reach out to the credentials committee and be like, hey, I want to make my pitch for, vice chair of LP Texas to all the delegates that are going to be at precinct convention. I want to send them an email. I want to, I've got a website, and I want to, make sure that they see that website before state convention. Credentials committee cannot give out delegates information without the delegates' consent, right? We're libertarians. So this share info box, if they check that or write yes or something like that, that is signaling to the credentials committee that if anyone for party or public office reaches out for a list of people to contact, that this person has said, yes, it is fine for candidates to reach out to me. If this is left blank, or if it says no, then whenever candidates reach out to the credentials committee for a list of delegates, we will not provide this person's contact information. Does that make sense, team? Awesome. All right. The other thing that is very important here is the signature. We need to have a signature here. And the reason why is because at the precinct convention, that is whenever you're affiliating with your county and state chair, or sorry, county and state party for the next, year or more. So this signature is your affiliation with your party. And so on this form, we actually have a oath of affiliation. They don't have to say it out loud or, put one hand on the Bible or anything like that. But basically it's saying that I swear that I've not voted in a primary election or participated in the convention of another party this year. I'm not seeking nomination, nor am I a candidate for another party. I, have read and generally support LP Texas Statement of Principles, and I certify that I oppose the initiation of force to achieve political and social goals. I hereby affiliate myself with the Libertarian Party. And if they sign that, then they are affiliated, and now they are eligible to participate in upstream conventions. So again, this form needs to be filled out by each voting precinct for which you have people show up at your precinct conventions. You can't say, okay, this is for 35, 80, 102, or what have you. Each precinct has to fill out this form. And you as a county leader need to make sure that before these forms, before the convention chairs leave for these precinct conventions, that at the bottom right-hand corner, they have signed this. We need to have a signature. So make sure that all of these have signatures before you send them into LP Texas. So roster and oath of affiliation is one form that is required. We mentioned the precinct convention minutes is another. Again, you'll need to have one of these for each voting precinct. You can't say, give multiple precincts or say all precincts on this. You have to fill it out. Each precinct will have to fill this out. Again, due March 13th. You elect a temporary convention chair. You have a convention chair. If it's just one person from precinct 80 who shows up, then they're automatically the convention chair. Easy peasy. Usually it's just whoever doesn't mind, filling out the paperwork. And then that person is typically the precinct chair. All of this stuff is optional as far as like precinct, secretary, treasurer. I don't see that done by many counties all that often. But basically what you do is you elect delegates to the county convention. So basically everyone who's been on the roster is eligible to be a delegate at the county convention. And then we'll talk about the additional delegates elected here in just a second. Adopting precinct bylaws, I don't see that happen very often either. This is typically skipped as we indicate on the form. And then sometimes a precinct will say, hey, we want to, pass a resolution as a precinct or something like that. Again, not very common, but you can indicate that if you did anything like that. And then you just say, obviously you indicate the time that it started, the time that you adjourned, which if you're a one-man show for your precinct, maybe, just a couple of minutes. And then you make sure that you sign it in the bottom right. So county chairs, county leaders, I can't emphasize enough that when all your precincts bring you the paperwork for you to send into LP Texas, that you make sure that they have signed it in the bottom right-hand corner. All right. And then the last form for precinct conventions, which may or may not be applicable, is the additional delegates elected form. So I'll give you an example with this. So let's say that the night of precinct convention, my husband is running, 102 fever, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't make it. There is a way for him to still be a delegate to the county convention, and that is through the additional delegates elected at precinct convention. Here's the trick, not trick, but the rub though, is that this can only be done by someone who is in your voting precinct. So my husband and I obviously share a household, so we're going to be in the same voting precinct. So if he can't make it, I can fill out this form for him and say, hey, I'm electing him as a delegate to the county convention. But my treasurer, for example, who lives in a different voting precinct, couldn't nominate my husband because they're not in the same voting precinct. So it can only be done by someone who is in the same voting precinct and signed. All right. So let's go ahead and jump back over to the presentation. I'll go back into slideshow mode so you can see that a little bit larger on your screens. So we've talked about the time, 6, 7 p.m. at the earliest, depending on your county population. The paperwork needs to be sent to records@lptexas.org no later than March 13th. This is kind of what, just kind of showing you where you find that voting precinct. Whenever we talk about, they can't have affiliated or participated in the primary of another party, I'm often asked, so how do we validate that? Are we just on the honor system? Some counties do it by the honor system. They sign that oath of affiliation. I don't do the honor system. What I do is, leading up to the primary, I send my county elections office an email and say, hey, my name is Jessie Cowart. I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party of Montgomery County. Just want to let you know, primary is on March 3rd. My precinct convention is on, March 10th. So sometime in that week, can you please send me a data dump of all the VUIDs of people who have voted in a primary, be it Republican or Democrat? I don't need to know which one. I don't need names. All I need is a CSV or an Excel document that has all the VUIDs of people who participated in a primary. And what I do is I have that document. And as people show up to my precinct conventions, I have just a little check-in, hey, check in with me. All right. And let me see your voter registration card. And I'll type in their VUID into that spreadsheet. And if I don't come up with a match, okay, you're good to go. But if I have a match on that, I'll say, I'm sorry, I see that you voted in a primary and you are welcome to stay and observe, and would love to get you involved in the Libertarian Party of Montgomery County. But unfortunately for tonight, you're not eligible to be a delegate because you voted in a primary, but I sure do hope you stick around, and we would love to get you involved. Make sense, team? County may or may not charge you for that data dump too, by the way. My county doesn't. All right. So they can't have been affiliated or participated in the primary of another party. They must be a qualified Texas voter. So we will need to validate on their voter registration card, validate these dates. And if, again, they forgot their voter registration card, or they say they never received it, or they've lost it, no harm, no foul. You should be able to look them up on the county election site. So most of you have smartphones. You'll be able to go to the county election site on your phone. I usually bring a laptop with me to both my precinct and county conventions, or a tablet or something like that. I highly recommend doing that, just because sometimes it's easier than, trying to look things up on your phone. And then you can go to your county elections page to look up their information. They'll just need to obviously provide you with, maybe their name, date of birth, or, address and things like that. So someone showing up without a voter registration card doesn't, make them ineligible or anything. You'll just need to have a means of electronically looking that up. And so again, that eligibility is generally supporting the statement of principles, which they do by signing that roster and oath of affiliation as part of their precinct convention. When that is all said and done, my favorite dopamine rush every 2 years is being able to stamp or write Libertarian on someone's voter registration card. So for those of you who have stamps, you can do that, but you can always just write Libertarian right here on this side margin on their voter registration card before they leave the precinct conventions. All right. Process, obviously, every precinct, remember, you can't do more than one precinct on a form. Each precinct has to complete the roster of participants and minutes, and if applicable, the additional delegates elected at precinct convention, which once again can only be done by somebody who is in that absent person's voting precinct. The other thing too is that because they're not signing that roster with the oath of affiliation, they will need to make it a point to get with a county CEC member or a select rep or someone to administer that oath of affiliation prior to the county convention. That oath of affiliation does still need to be completed prior to the county convention, even if somebody in their voting precinct submits this additional delegates elected form on their behalf. That needs to happen. So it is really the responsibility of the absent delegate to make sure that that gets done. All right. So recommended practice, you have different precinct chairs in the room, right? If you're all doing it in one place, and that's how most counties do. I generally recommend that each precinct chair uses their phone and snaps a copy of each form. That way, if the county chair, loses something and or spills coffee on it before they have a chance to scan it and send it into LP Texas, that the convention chair has a record of it. So you as county leaders, make sure you're encouraging your precinct chairs to snap a picture with their phone or something like that. And it's just a kind of a fail safe in case something wonky happens before you're able to get those records into records at lptexas.org. And that deadline is, again, for precinct conventions that take place on March 10th. The deadline for those precinct convention forms to be sent in to records at lptexas.org is March 13th, which you'll see on those forms. Break time for questions again, guys. Any questions about precinct conventions before we move into county conventions? Right, we're going to keep moving right along. We're making good time, team. All right, county convention, Saturday, March 14th. Again, no wiggle room on this date. This is prescribed by Texas Election Code, but the time isn't prescribed in our LP Texas bylaws, and that's because it's on a Saturday. So it's not like you can't have it start, before 6 or 7 p.m. You can do county conventions at any time. As county leaders, I would hope that you're reaching out to the members of your county party and asking them what time they prefer. They probably won't like 8 a.m. or maybe some of them won't like 8 a.m. Some of them probably will. But trying to find that happy medium in terms of when everyone will be available on that date and trying to be as accommodating as possible. But I guess the moral of the story here is that it doesn't have to happen at on or after a specific time for the county conventions because it's a Saturday. You do need to have those notices. The locations and times must be published no less than 10 days before the county convention. That deadline is March 4th. But remember, we should have already, if we're working smarter, not harder, we should have already taken care of that whenever we sent in our precinct notices, right? We're knocking out the county convention notices at the same time, so we don't have to worry about it later. But in the event that you only do the precinct convention notices by Friday, the 27th of February, your county convention notices do need to be sent in by March 4th, 10 days before the convention notice. So sent into, same thing, posted in your county commissioner's court board, sent into LP Texas on your website, all of that stuff we talked about earlier with the convention notices. But again, just do precinct and county at one time, make your life easier. As far as county conventions, precinct conventions are pretty quick, right? You're just making sure that people are eligible. They go through, they sign their the roster and oath of affiliation. You kind of go through that precinct minutes form. Precinct conventions is kind of an in and out thing. It doesn't take a lot of time. Maybe a little bit longer for larger counties, since there's a lot of different precincts going on. But precinct conventions is kind of like a, easy in, easy out thing. County conventions are going to have more meat and potatoes, right? So I mentioned that is to say, whenever you reserve your venue to allow more time for the county convention. So precinct conventions, typically an hour, 2 hours tops. County conventions, you have a lot more stuff to do. You're maybe considering candidates for public office. You may be, you will be considering, your county executive committee for the next 2 years. Who's going to be the county chair, vice chair, treasurer, what have you. You'll be potentially electing delegates to district conventions. You may be electing delegates to, or you will be electing delegates to state convention. So there's more to do. You may have people who want to do bylaws changes as part of your county convention. So if you're part of a county that, is really gung-ho about bylaws and likes to kind of debate and dissect those things, then make sure you allow time for that whenever you reserve your space for the county convention. So I would say, that's more of like a 3-hour, block, or if you're Harris County, maybe it's like half a day or more. So plan accordingly for your county conventions. There's just more to do. It's not kind of an in and out thing. You've got certain things that have to happen as part of your county convention to maintain your county's affiliation for the next 2 years. All right. So forms for county convention. County convention's on March 14th. Forms are due within 10 business days, so no later than March 24th. And then if you are nominating candidates for placement on the ballot for the general election, that needs to be sent in by April 3rd. Again, team, this is one of those things where you just do all your paperwork at once. That way you don't have to keep up with 2 different deadlines. You're sending in your county convention paperwork. If you nominated a candidate as part of your county convention, just knock that out at the same time. That way you're not having to keep up with 2 deadlines. Excuse me. All right. County convention eligibility. So they have to have met all of the eligibility requirements for the precinct convention, right? They need to have had their precinct convention records received by the county and state chairs, which of course is done by sending it to records@lptexas.org. And like I said earlier, if they're elected as an additional delegate, like kind of in absentia, by those in their precinct while they weren't present, then they do need to have an oath of affiliation administered and documented by a CEC officer or even a select rep or someone like that, someone who can do that oath of affiliation before county convention gavels in. All good? All right. All right, county convention process. Like I said, lots of stuff to do at county convention. So generally speaking, with county convention, your agenda, as it were, or kind of your flow is probably going to be prescribed in your county bylaws. If it's not, then please feel free to follow this. But if you're using the most recent county bylaws template, then it will have things in a prescribed order, and it's easy peasy. And you'll notice that our convention minutes form goes in the same order, so it's pretty easy. But you'll have the call of order, and then roster of participants is established to determine quorum. The roster should be documented and included with the convention minutes. Names and VUIDs allow participants to be easily matched to delegate information recorded in precinct records. So roster of participants is, we don't have a specific form for that. If you go out to the convention forms folder, I usually just do it in an Excel document, easy. There's no need to, we're not overly prescriptive with how you do the roster of participants. Temporary officers of the convention are introduced. Usually the temporary convention chair is the county chair. That's the person who kicks it off. But then you'll actually have nominations and elections for the officers, like permanent officers of the convention, like that convention that's happening that day. We're not talking about like your CEC for the next 2 years yet. Just nominations and elections for permanent officers of the convention. Maybe your county chair gets nominated and elected to be the convention chair. Maybe not. Maybe the delegates want somebody other than the county chair to be the convention chair, and that's okay too. But you do have to go through the motions of electing the officers of the convention. You don't have to have all of them. You do need to have a county or a convention chair, and you should also have a convention secretary who will be taking the minutes for your county convention. You can choose a parliamentarian if like you want to do that, have a parliamentarian there to give the chair advice, but certainly not something that is required and not something that I typically see done at county conventions, just to say it. All right, so you got your temporary officers of convention, then you do your nominations and elections for the permanent officers of the convention right now. And then you adopt the agenda again. If your county bylaws already define that agenda, you're following that agenda. If not, this flow is very nice and easy for you to follow. Nominations, after you adopt your agenda, you can have nominations and elections of candidates for public office. So this is going to be for any of your county offices, right? County commissioner, county clerk, tax assessor, things like that. Any county level things are considered at the county convention. As long these are partisan races, right? And then the other thing that you may consider at a county convention is district races that are wholly contained in a county. So I'll use myself as a prime example. So I'm running for Texas House District 15. Texas House District 15 is wholly contained in Montgomery County. Every bit of it is in Montgomery County. So my nomination will be considered at the county convention, not at a district convention. Does that make sense, team? Yeah. There are some a little less likely, but there are even some state Senate districts that are wholly contained in a county. I think I know Bexar County has one, for example. So if it's wholly contained within a county, then those nominations are considered at the county convention. District convention is when the district touches more than one county. Okay. All right. So any candidates for public office, for county offices or any district offices that are wholly contained in the county. And then nominations and elections of CEC officers. So this is where we get into your officers for the next 2 years. Who's going to be the county chair for Orange County for the next 2 years? The vice chair, the secretary, the treasurer. You don't have to fill all of these positions, especially if you're like a one-man county, which I know is common in some of our rural counties. But you do, at minimum, have to have a county chair to remain affiliated. You do have to have a county chair. So nomination elections of CEC officers, and there is a CEC contact form that has to be completed. Nominations and elections of district delegates. So this is if applicable. I don't believe that the emails have gone out yet. I'll follow up with Christy Ford, who's our LP Texas secretary, to find out when this is going to happen. But all county chairs whose county touches a district for which we have someone wanting to be considered for nomination should be getting an email soon. And that will say, okay, this is for State Board of Education 6, which touches, X, Y, and Z county. So you count, X, Y, and Z county chairs, you guys get together and determine, when the district convention will take place, or, well, the time and location of the place, the date is already set. But you would have, if your county is touching a district that is eligible to participate in a district convention, you should know that prior to your county convention. And then you can do elections for delegates to each of those district conventions. And then nominations and elections for delegates to state convention. State convention is different. It's not a free for all. So with district conventions, it's just like, all right, well, Montgomery County touches, these districts where we have people who want to be nominated. So, we can do elections to those, and it doesn't. There's not a set number of people who can be delegates. Everyone in Montgomery County could be a delegate to a district convention if they wanted to be and they were nominated and elected. State convention is different because the number of delegates that you have are prescribed. So you guys should have been receiving emails from me. It's most recently the January 11th email that I sent notifying you of these trainings had a link to the delegate apportionment form. So that is where you can determine how many delegates your county is eligible to have at state convention. So for example, let's say it's 3. And that's the case for new counties, certainly. You've got 3 counties, 3 delegates eligible for your counties. You can elect up to 3 delegates and 3 alternates. Let's say you're a bigger county and you can bring up to like 21 delegates. You can elect 21 delegates and 21 alternates. So basically what you would do is just know going into your county convention how many delegates you have for your county. Know that before the day of county convention. Please don't email me or ping me on Discord the day of county convention to say, hey, I think I should have more delegates than what is on the delegate apportionment form. You should have already reviewed that and let me know if you think your county should be allocated additional delegates based on 2024 candidate performance. Don't wait until that day to do it, because I'm a county chair too, and I may be in the truck and on the way trying to prepare for my own county convention. So please, please, please do not procrastinate knowing how many delegates your county will be electing from your county convention for state delegation. We all good on that team? Everybody understand? All right. So we do elect delegates to state convention, and then adoption or modification of bylaws. Some counties haven't modified their bylaws in several years. What I do as a county chair, as I'm preparing for county convention, is a few weeks before county convention, I send a copy of our county bylaws to all of my voting members. And I say, hey guys, here's our current bylaws. Anybody think that they're going to have any kind of recommendations for modifications or anything at the county convention? And that way we can kind of start talking about it a little bit and be planful, rather than, everybody just kind of coming up in there and somebody wants to do like a wholesale revamp of the county bylaws, right? So that's what I would encourage, is just sending out the bylaws to your folks and just saying like, hey, do you have anything that you feel strongly about or we may want to consider and everything? That way you can, again, plan accordingly, make sure that you have your venue reserved for long enough and all of that. For county bylaws, in the convention forms, and I'll just show you the county, oopsie. Sorry, guys, give me a second. Hit the wrong button. I'm going to jump over back to the folder where all the convention forms are. And I'll just show you the convention minutes. So again, if you don't have a prescribed agenda, this form will kind of guide you through the process, right? So you got the agenda, you've got your convention chair that's elected, credentialing, you verified all the attendees were participants in the precinct convention or not, verified voter registration and oath of affiliation for everyone. You've created a roster so that you can establish quorum and all of that good stuff. You've gone through your nominations for public office. You elect your county executive committee, and there's a separate form for that. Fill out the county executive committee form. State and district delegates. And then you get to the bylaws and you either adopt or amend county bylaws, or maybe you reaffirm the existing bylaws. Here's the ask, team. If you're not making any changes to your county bylaws and you're clicking this box to reaffirm the existing bylaws, our LP Texas secretary really would like you to send in a copy of your county bylaws anyway. And the reason why, team, is because counties will sometimes go years without making changes to their bylaws. And then something will come up. And it's difficult for us to find and, go back, however many years to find the most recent version of the county bylaws that we have on file. And then sometimes even counties will say, oh, you know what, we modified our bylaws last year. We just forgot to send in a copy or something like that. So the ask is that even if you're clicking this box saying you're reaffirming the existing bylaws, send in those bylaws anyway, just so it's easy for if something comes up for us to always be able to easily find the latest and greatest. So send in the bylaws regardless of whether you're making the change or not. Okay. All right. And then you have other business. So maybe your county passes a resolution, on something. Any other business, obviously not mandatory. And then convention is adjourned. And like everything else, make sure, convention chairs, that this is signed in the bottom right-hand corner. Got to have that signature. Got to have it. So that is the county convention minutes. Again, the roster for county convention can be in whatever format you want. You can send it in the body of the email that you send to records@lptexas.org. You can send it in an Excel worksheet, however you want to do that. But then you'll also obviously need to send the executive committee contact form. Even though it's in the minutes, who you elected as county chair or whatever, this form still needs to be sent in with at minimum the chair and signed. And then you have also elected delegates to state convention, elected alternates to state convention, and then elected delegates to district convention if that was applicable. We also out here, guys, have an example of the bylaws template for your consideration. So if you are one of those counties who hasn't updated their county bylaws in years and years, we made some changes in 2022 that are beneficial for you to have in your bylaws, particularly around how you can go about backfilling select vacancies. So if you aren't on the latest and greatest version of the bylaws, or at least a modified version thereof, do encourage you to do that. So all of these forms would need to be sent in to records at LP Texas by the deadline, which again, March 14th is the county convention. So all of those need to be scanned and emailed to records@lptexas.org by March 24th. Also, if you are doing candidate nominations, so county or again, district that's wholly contained in the county, we do have the certification of nominees form out here, which is very basic, but you would just fill that out and sign it for each of the, to certify each nominee that you guys nominated and elected at your county convention. And even though that does have a later deadline than March 24th, encourage you to just send it all in at one time. That way you're not having to worry about two different deadlines. And that brings us to the end of county conventions. I'm going to pause for questions again, team. Any questions about county conventions? I will say that whenever you're electing delegates to state convention, some counties have in their bylaws requirements or eligibility requirements for someone to be able to be elected as a delegate to state convention. Some counties, I guess, seasoning requirements, right? So for Montgomery County, for example, we're basically saying if you walk in off the street from precinct convention and then come to county convention and want to be a delegate to the state convention, but we have never seen or heard from you ever before, you can't be a delegate to the state convention. Like, you are encouraged to stay and participate, and we would love to have you keep coming back to our meetings and everything, but you can't be a delegate to our state convention if you haven't participated in some event with us in the last year, or something like that is what I've seen some counties may have in their bylaws. So again, don't only know how many people that you can elect as delegates to the state convention, but also know what are your requirements, because your county bylaws may have additional requirements kind of above and beyond what I've described that you need to take into account. So if you have some kind of seasoning requirements for state delegate eligibility, make sure you know that, make sure you communicate it. That way nobody is disappointed going into the county convention. All right, team. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right on into district conventions, if there are no questions, and I don't see any hands up right now. So district convention, again, may not be applicable to everybody, right? LP Texas Secretary will let you know if there is a candidate who is wanting to be considered for a district that touches a portion of your county. And those district conventions will be on Saturday, March 21st. They all happen to happen on the same date. LP Texas will designate a temporary chair of the district. And that's generally the person who's going to coordinate with the other county chairs to say, hey, all right, I'm the district chair, the temporary district chair. I'm reaching out to you, county X, Y, and Z, because we all need to get together and consider the nomination of, this candidate or candidates for State Board of Education District 6 or something like that. And then they'll plan together, usually trying to find some kind of centralized location between all of the counties involved, and align on a location, date, and time to have that district convention. And then that needs to be sent to records@lptexas.org with a copy to chair at lptexas.org at least 15 days before that district convention. What I usually emphasize here, guys, is teamwork, because this is one of my least favorite parts of the Texas election code, because all of these district conventions happen on the same day, Saturday, March 21st. And it's sometimes hard if there's a district convention that's happening, on this side of town, or maybe even like 2 hours away, because counties are big, right? And they may touch, this group of counties up here, but then touch this group of counties down here. And you're trying to get to these district conventions that are all happening on the same day. So what I say is just, be very partnering and try to be as accommodating as possible as a team of county chairs whenever you're planning these district conventions. And just taking it into account that some people really do want to be at all of these district conventions. And to the extent that we can enable that, then we should. I remember a few cycles back, poor Robert Applebaum, he's the chair of Polk County. Polk County kind of touches part of like the far end of the Houston metro area a little bit with some of the districts, but then also touches, districts that are like in East Texas. And poor man was like trying to make it from Lufkin to the south side of Houston to participate in these two different district conventions. And it was just very difficult because he wasn't going to be able to get from point A to point B in time based on how the times were. So like I said, one of my least favorite parts of the Texas election code, they don't make it easy on us, but try to do that and be as accommodating as possible and kind of spread things out throughout the day. It does make for a long day. It does make for some driving for people who really want to be at all of them. But we don't want to, inadvertently disenfranchise someone. But that being said, sometimes even despite our very best efforts, it's just not possible for someone to be at two places at once or make it from point A to point B in time. And whenever that does happen, all we can do is apologize to the affected delegate, and they may have to make a call, right? Like which of these district conventions is more important to them. Maybe they're really gung-ho about one candidate that's in this district convention. They really want to make sure that they're there to support them. Or maybe they just really don't like this other candidate and really want to be there to know to them. Either way, the delegate would need to make a decision as to which of the district conventions to which they're a delegate is most important to them. So we try to minimize them having to make the call, but sometimes that just is what it is. Does that make sense, team? Everybody understand kind of what we're trying to do there? All right. So district executive committee will select the location and times. We already know what date it is. And then again, county chairs, I don't know if you've actually been not notified of this yet, but if you haven't, it's coming soon, and reach out to Christy Ford if you haven't heard from her. But again, that needs to be determined. And then whoever is elected as the district convention chair needs to make sure that forms are sent in no later than March 31st. So that's within 10 business days to records@lptexas.org. So there's a district convention minutes, roster of participants. Again, no form out in that forms thing for roster of participants. So you can type it in an email, you can put it in an Excel spreadsheet, however you want to do it. I usually, as a district chair, will put the name and the county that they're representing. But that's just the way I do it. And then, of course, the names and addresses, at least, of all of the elected nominees to public office, including copies of the certification forms. Those certification forms need to be certified no later than April 10th. So just make sure coming out of district convention, just send all the paperwork in at once by March 31st if you are elected as a district convention chair. A question that I usually get around district conventions is, so, I'm just going to make up something like district, State House 100. Like I'm making this up. That let's just say that touches multiple counties. I've had people ask before, all right, whenever we're considering delegates to a district convention from the county convention, do they actually have to live in that district? And the interesting question is, or the answer is, Texas Election Code doesn't say. So if I'm in Montgomery County and I live in State House District 15, but there's a district convention for State House 16, I could, in Montgomery County, unless my county bylaws say otherwise, be elected as a delegate to the State House 16 district convention, even though I don't actually live in that district. So interesting thing about the Texas Election Code. Basically, anyone can be elected to any district convention that they want to be from the county convention, so long as, obviously it pertains to that county. So little tidbit for you there. All right. Because really, the only requirement is that you have been duly elected as a district delegate from your county convention and that you're a voting member. That's the only solid requirement, unless there's something else specific in your county bylaws around that. And that is pretty much the gist of district convention. So again, call to order, roster of participants, in whatever format you choose, so long as you get it turned into records@lptexas.org, along with the nomination of the district convention minutes and nominations of candidates for public office. So going back over to the list of forms, of course, the certification of nominees is going to apply for district conventions too. Clearly, that's the whole reason you're there. But there is a district convention minutes form that needs to be filled out by whoever is elected as the chair of the district convention and sent in to records@lptexas.org and signed in the bottom right-hand corner. Can't emphasize that part of it. And I apologize. That is Gus. And he is my dog who likes to bark anytime there is someone walking by the house minding their own business. All right. Home stretch, guys. We're almost there. And I think we are going to hopefully end on time today. But before I move on, just to kind of the last little bit of ancillary stuff, any questions from the group about district conventions? All right, I shall move on. All right, so we talked about this at the top, but I want to make sure that I cover it again. So the LP Texas website, lptexas.org, links to the convention website by clicking on the main page banner whenever you first get to lptexas.org, but you can go directly to the convention website, which is 2026.lptexas.org. And then again, whenever you're on the convention website, under this contact and FAQ area, you have the election cycle timeline and the documents. Convention forms, the training will be here, current LP Texas bylaws. Just so you know, guys, stay tuned and keep an eye on your email because the Credentials Committee is going to be doing another training coming up here soon that is going to be focused on the state convention, and that will be open to all delegates and alternates. So there will be a state convention specific training that is coming your way, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you guys there again. And then we'll talk a little bit more at that time about, the different state convention committees and where to find their reports and all of that good stuff, okay? But for now, just mostly wanted to make sure that you know that you come out to this convention website and go under documents. That's where you can find the training we've gone over today, as well as a link to all of the convention forms that you're going to need. She's not on the call today, but I do want to give out a shout out to Lisa Schlinkert. She's a member of the Credentials Committee. One of the big feedback items that we've gotten last cycle was, can you please just make these fillable so that we don't have to handwrite these forms? So I am so pleased to tell you that all of these convention forms for folks who have the right, Adobe stuffs, these are fillable convention forms where you can type things in. Still need those signatures. You got to have the signatures. But the forms are now fillable. So take advantage of that to the extent that you can. We do still need the signatures, but yeah, that should be a nice little process improvement for this cycle. So I hope that you guys appreciate that as much as I do. Also, here's the link to that 2026 state delegate apportionment. Know how many delegates you're electing to state convention before you go into your county convention. Don't be scrambling trying to figure that out in the midst of your county convention. Like, oh God, I don't know how many people we're electing. Know that ahead of time. Look at the state delegate apportionment. And if you think for some reason it's incorrect, you should have additional delegates based on 2024 candidate performance, email the Credentials Committee. You should have there was a whole communication about that. All right. Final thing, as we're in the home stretch here, is Robert's Rules. And I really only bring up Robert's Rules, team, just to basically ask you not to overthink it. You do not have to be a parliamentarian or an expert in Robert's Rules to lead a county convention. I've got some basic definitions here on this slide just to kind of give you some of the very basic stuff. There is also, if you click on the word here, the link, this will take you to kind of a user-friendly table that'll give you a little bit more information around Robert's Rules. It's actually downloaded. So can you interrupt a speaker to do this? Does it need a second? Is it debatable? Things like that. Feel free to print this out and take it with you just to kind of have that little safety net as you go into the county conventions. I know that some counties are very gung-ho on Robert's Rules. I'll mention Harris County again. They are big Robert's Rules county, but for other counties, it's usually pretty straightforward, just like I nominate someone, I second, I move to adjourn, I second, it's pretty straightforward. So again, team, please don't overthink the Roberts rules stuff and get yourself worked up about it. You don't have to be an expert in Roberts rules to lead a convention. So you're going to be okay. And just give your delegates and really delegates, give your county leaders some grace when it comes to Robert's rules. Okay. All right. We are at time and we are at the end of the presentation. So I am willing to stay on to address any questions that you have whatsoever. But that is the end of the content that I plan to deliver today. So any questions out there, team? Anything that I could kind of go back and refresh on or expound upon? No questions off the table.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I may be out of town for the not for conventions, but for the dates for the postings. Is there a limit to, like, is there a time that's too early for me to do that? Like, could I do it today or Monday when they're open?
Oh no, yeah, no, absolutely. I've already posted. Yeah, I've already posted my
Oh, good. Okay.
Texas page. I just need to I haven't made it to my county office yet. But yeah, no, like absolutely. And don't wait till the last minute.
That's
yeah.
handy.
There's no such thing as too early at this point. You're
okay.
Yeah. Good question.
I'm gonna try to post to my county this probably this coming week then, and then get it on LP Texas after that. So, but that was my question. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yep, no problem, Judy. Thank you. Scott, I see you have your hand up.
Hey, Jesse. My question is also about the posting thing. I thought, according to the Texas election code, as long as you had it on your website and easily searchable, that you didn't have to post at the county. I know that Credentials likes us to do that to cover our ass, but can you expand on that a little further?
Yeah, no, that's fair. So the way that we have interpreted it in the past is that the LP Texas piece was kind of optional, though strongly encouraged as long as you did it on the county website. But the election code is somewhat ambiguous around the county commissioner's office. So I will say that we ran into a situation in 2024 where we had some notice issues, and the credentials committee as a committee voted to adopt a certain point of view on that. And that was within our purview to do so, but we do strongly encourage, well, I mean, we do tell counties they need to go put it on their county commissioner's website too, just based on the Texas election code verbiage. It's somewhat ambiguous. Now, Scott, I welcome you to contact the Secretary of State. And if they have a different point of view that you can get in writing and send it to the credentials committee, I am totally willing to backtrack on that. But that has been our kind of stock stance on this, just to address that ambiguity.
Okay. Also, me and you need to sit down and have a chat about state convention and credentials needs as soon as you have a chance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd started talking with Nathan about some of those things, but I actually had it on my list of things to do to connect with you. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm available this afternoon if you're available.
Yeah, I actually I'm gonna actually turn off the recording, guys.